So the final thing on how we're going to grow ginger in the Bosque then is to do experiments to find out how it wants to grow for us. And a bunch of them will fail. If they don't fail, we're not experimenting far out enough. I would like to plant ginger in the Barranca. Is there enough light? It's hard to say how much light there is in the Barranca. The bigger issue right now in the Barranca is soil. We have to have a bunch of soil in the Barranca in certain spots, and we have to block it so it doesn't go down slope too much. Because there could be a big storm and it could wash away our gardens. And that did happen one time. I have one experience with that. And I watched the garden. We didn't change anything. We didn't respond to it. And the garden didn't completely die. And it wasn't that long after we had made the garden. And so it wasn't totally surprising what happened. But the Barranca is very complex. And it's not just a hole. You know, it's got many different sections to it and any kind of different microclimates. So it's not even just one microclimate. I mean, I often refer to the Barranca as a microclimate. But at this point, there's the area of the crossing, which changes things a little bit. It's not a major change. And then the changes we've made to the Barranca so far don't have any microclimate changes at all. But there are changes I would like to make that would make really interesting changes. In particular, there's one rock spot that always fills up with water every year during the rainy season. Now that one, I have temptations to mess with it. I don't want to. It's a currently natural feature that's there. For example, I could put dirt in it and I could grow a bunch of ginger or something. But right now it's a natural water feature during the rainy season. And that's actually one of our easiest water features to recreate is just simply make a commitment to keep it full all year. You know how we do that? We have to have a roof capturing water or a way to deliver water, but a roof capturing it is the ultimate best way to deliver water, and you get a roof in a spot that's remote. And you'd be surprised how fast that fills up. It's an easy calculation to figure out how to fill up the tank with the rain available, and then we can easily do a calculation of how many tanks would it take at what rate of fill to fill this thing up all year long. That one simple thing would create tons more wildlife here. It could be the first one. It's the easiest one. It would also open up a really exciting area, which I have to be very cautious with because I have long-term plans for it. But I could use that as part of that. Actually, I know where I could do it because hose is pretty simple. I mean, I can bury hoses and do all kinds of things with hoses. So the building has a lot of locations it could be to feed into that system because it's first going to feed into its own cistern, and then that's going to feed into the other cistern, and then that cistern will be dedicated just for this pool. And then we keep that pool full. And we check it for mosquito larvae, but there won't be mosquito larvae because pools where a bunch of animals go and stuff, I've noticed different kinds of pools. And once there's a certain kind of algae and there's a certain living system in there, we would not be cleaning it every year or anything like that. We may have to go in and remove oak leaves at times, but we won't have to like scrub it or anything. It's a living system. And in this case, it's a rock one. So we started out great. Our next step down there would be to actually pick exactly the right spot and make a cement sculpted rockwork lake. Totally animal accessible. The dogs aren't going to go that far for water, so the dogs won't bother that. We don't need a fence to keep them out. It is true that as wildlife increases in the Barranca, the dogs will be more of an issue with that, and that's a huge problem. I have plans for how I'm going to block off the Barranca in a variety of ways. Many of them are green solutions, like bamboo wall, cedar hedges, and then responding to where dogs go through or what kind of animals can go through and what can't. Now, we could have walls that wildlife could go through, but the dogs can't. And that's a great thing. A fox can get through a lot smaller spot than one of my big-ass dogs. And they also have a lot of time to learn everything. All this wildlife is smarter than my dogs. I hate to say that. My dogs are people smart. They're extremely people smart, and they're awesome. But they're not wildlife smart. That isn't to say they haven't killed any wildlife. They've killed at least one skunk. And then Mambo and another dog have both killed tuses before, which I'm thrilled with. That's a pocket gopher, and they eat your gardens. But that whole area that's the most intense wildlife thing. And what's going to happen then is if we put water at the top, we put water at the bottom and in the middle, if we have 3 spots even, that'd be my current recommendation. And I think that's how we should do it as a budget and a project, is to plan for the whole thing. Or we could plan in 3 stages, and each one can be documented, and then we can go to the next stage. That works too. That might be easier on the funding and gain people's confidence that we can do this. As far as what building to put in to feed that area so far down slope, it's a little tricky to know, but I think it might even be some kind of a gatehouse or something higher up. And controlling that barranca spot's really important to me, and I want a place that people stop, they get oriented and welcomed, and that it's all figured out. And I think I have many options on that, and I'm just not sure what to do yet. I don't have the resources anyway. But that's one building over there. We could always make an exact Carpinteria copy in a myriad of spaces. There's some that we really couldn't fail, you know. But I'm still hesitant about just building things too far out to have meaning. If anything, I've built sometimes too far out, the Cosmic and Truth being the primary example. Those 2 cabanas are built so far out that nobody uses them, and they've never even been fully finished. So back to the ginger. What I'm imagining is that there are other kinds of ginger probably. We need to investigate that. We need to try all of them here. We could, of course, in a perusal of them, find out which ones are drought tolerant or not. Surprisingly, it's very wet here, but then it's also very dry. And so the dry season is a tough part, but a lot of tubers and rhizomes would do great here. So anyway, same deal with garlic and all that. Wish me luck, and I will do my best to keep growing more, thinking very consciously about every single element in my life. I would encourage you to do the same. You're welcome to suggest topics, and I would love to think about them. If you have great topics or want to point me to a good video, do it. I want to understand everything and how it is. Of course, I'll never succeed at that because I forget stuff at some rate, and I have some coming in. Eventually, I'll be forgetting more stuff than I can learn. So, oh well. I think I'm still doing optimally, and the very complex systems I deal with cannot really be thought of by anyone not in my position for a wide variety of very odd reasons. I am the perfect guy to do this exact job, which is probably why I made up my job. What is my job? Do you know?